Hi everybody. If you're 45 or older, talk to your doctor. Schedule colonoscopy. I realized the other day, watching a few other videos from other contributors, I guess, I really haven't introduced anybody to my situation here. Most everybody knows that at least at one time I'd had colon cancer and it nearly took my life. One of the doctors that told me they looked at my case like a year and a half later told me that I was probably about a month away from being terminally ill and only able to be comforted while I basically lived out my last days. And that was at the beginning of COVID in September of 2019. Since I've had over a foot of my colon, it was like 14 inches of my colon taken, which was completely black, the whole 14 inches, and 24 lymph nodes that had, 3 of them had tested positive for cancer. So that's one of the reasons why that doctor gave me that prognosis after I was considered cured or cancer-free, I guess. And coming up at the end of October, it'll be right around 5 years, and according to my oncologist slash nurse practitioner, if everything goes well in October, I'll be considered cured. So that's good news. The rest of my story is I started growing a couple of years ago using bag seeds, growing Christmas trees. And then a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, a friend of mine gave me a box that hooks up to my TV and it gets me YouTube. So I was able to watch videos, but I was not able to converse with people because I don't have a smartphone. I have a flip cell phone. During this first period of the last year and a half, I ran into the videos of Jorge Cervantes, who proposed a few questions and said branch technology wasn't where it needed to be. Bud technology got great and huge, so great and fantastic, you know. We got to trellis our plants and all kinds of stuff to support the weight that we're going to be getting in flower and to protect the plants from wind damage and storm damage and stuff like this. This plant here and the golden goat plant that you've seen in the past, which is gone now, there may be a clone of it, but I'm not sure. And this other plant over here and this plant, they were all hit by between 60 and 70 mile an hour winds during a storm. And everybody else reported branches torn off, plants busted in half, you know, considerable amounts of damage. I was concerned at first because everything was kind of folded up on itself. But after I was able to straighten out the issue, we've gotten this here. Now, this area here was basically a berm in a cattail marsh, 300 feet from a freeway, that direction, and like 2,000 acres of swampland right out this direction. So this is my backyard. In Minnesota, prairie land basically, so it's flat. There's a couple of dips here and there. The glaciers moved through here and wiped everything out. Any structure there might have been of hills or whatever, just flattened everything. Matter of fact, I found a rock. So these ponds here that I'm next to that are almost completely grown over now, but back in the 1950s, they had dredgers out here, not dredgers, like steam shuttles or whatever, grapples, and they dug out these ponds. And then in the nearer past, they put trout in them and stuff like that. Some of them, not these particular ones. Anyways, I found a rock that was dug up by them things. It's completely white and has striations on it going in one direction. So that is a rock that was deposited here from the glaciers. All right, to be continued on that. Because of the area I was growing in, I hacked together a process of building up the base around here, because right now I'm standing on a cattail mass. Okay? Or well, it's more peat moss than it is cattail. There's cattails over here, but this is part of the berm that was here from the 50s when they dug that up. Basically, I built a hugelkultur without knowing it. I put down wood. I had to dig a well. I had to step down the well because 3 or 4 years ago, this area dried up down to 9 feet. And at 9 feet, all I was able to get was mud. So I was using mud to water my plants in. While walking down, well, I dug down 9 feet, so I had to step it down, and I was down there looking up 3 feet above my head at peat, thinking, man, this could collapse on me anytime, but this is cool, you know? This is cool as hell. Pick up this rock. Wow, it's neat. It's all right. I have it up at the house. I'll show you guys one day. So I get a well out of that to where I get water now, pond water. I have a base here that I can walk on and keep my feet dry, because if that camera there falls off from what it's on right now, it's going in the drink. So, and my feet are basically level with that water. It does creep up here on the spring, but that's beside the point. So, hugelkultur. Basically wood and green material. Built up everywhere around here in a berm. You can see me climbing up here. Right now, I'm still a foot below where the base of this plant is. So the plant base is a foot above where my feet were. I can walk completely through this plant. So I'm not the most patient person in the world when it comes to harvesting these things. So basically, every year it starts over trial by error. You got to try a little piece because I don't want it to go too far or whatever. And sometimes it'll dry to where I like it. And then if I let it go too far or let it go farther than what I like it, then it kind of like ruins it for me. So there's several different reasons when and why I harvest. But this one is going to be one of the latest ones I ever harvest. It's still 3 weeks probably at least away. And that's the top colas. Any of the slower stuff inside here, if I harvest it at all, depending on how much I get overall, it will be like a second round, because right now we've got a week of 80-degree weather, up to 80 degrees, right around somewhere around there, 80-degree weather. And these are going to grow like crazy, especially closer to the end of their flowering period, which is the bag seed. It was given to me. I don't know what the time run is on it, you know, how many weeks the flower it should have or whatever. This is all an experiment. If I was to or am going to run this plant again, then I'll keep track of how many weeks it takes to flower to where I harvest it and how it turns out and all that. My hugelkultur berm here. At one point last year, my biggest plant drowned. So when you're seeing that 9-foot tall, 14-foot wide plant. That wasn't the biggest one. My biggest plant drowned. And I believe in one of the earlier videos, or one of the other videos, you'll see it's an earlier time. And you'll see I got my white rhino over here, and then I've got my other power plant, and then I had another two power plants. So I had 3 power plants and a white rhino. 1 power plant died. So then I replaced it with an ice cream cake. A re-vegged ice cream cake. That gave me this idea. Okay? So if it wasn't for my friend giving me 2 clones of 2 different types, me putting them out too early in the spring to where they went into flower and then re-vegged, went back into vegetation, one died, the other one nearly died. I took the one that was still alive, put it in the bushes, and then every week or so, if it was still alive, I'd give it some water and didn't really think much about it until that power plant died. And then I put that ice cream cake in its place, and I started training it the same way I was training my power plant and my white rhino. By the end of the season, that power plant the ice cream cake impressed me so much that I changed from wanting to grow the big heaping, I wanted to beat my record. I was going to go for 10-foot tall and 20-foot wide. After that ice cream cake, I realized that, and then after harvesting the power plant and the white rhino, I thought the whole thing was going to have equivalent to the same amount of girth and density and all that. No. The whole back of that plant, except for what's at the top, the whole back of that plant wasn't good for anything but possibly washing and putting into food or something. And, I did plenty of that last year, and I was happy for it, but with this new system, you're still going to get a little bit of the seconds and thirds, but the lowest quality stuff is gone, okay, because it's only 1.5 feet, 2 feet deep, the canopy. And all this stuff here, you could strip all that out, but I don't know. If I was to strip it out, those nodes are getting enough light to where they would pop out some more leaf material, or we keep growing there, keep regenerating. So I'm going to leave that alone. It's less time. One of the other reasons for my inventing the gadget, my own trainers, was because I don't have the time to spend out here. So this is another reason why you guys haven't seen a video from me to this depth talking about what we've got going on here. Basically, the shorter the branches, the less likely are they to tip over. And that's what's shown on the golden goat. That one was trained the whole time with the trainers. This one was kind of half-ass trained with it because I was too busy to make more, because I'm hand making these things until I find somebody that wants to manufacture them. Eventually it will happen. So let me say to anybody that is a manufacturer of any type of crap like that, not this kind of crap like this video camera, which we'll figure that out in our own time. I wish I knew where there we go. Maybe there's a sensor somewhere that I'm not seeing. So this is the cream cheese. I also have a blueberry sprinkle and one of the children, let's say, from one of my power plants from last year. And that power plant bag seed is the best thing I've ever grown as far as the flower itself. Not the biggest, of course. It's not the smallest either. That is probably at least 6.5 feet tall and 6 feet wide, so that's good. It's lost all of its top colas because I had these damn budworms that this is the first time I've ever experienced them. And after taking 3/4 of the golden goat and me having to take it down early, I pretty much went to town on this thing, and anything that had a speck of anything on it, I stripped it off, and it was most of the colas. Now this is a cola here. Of course, there would have been like 40 of them, But that's all right. They were taken early enough to where the other buds underneath it were able to develop. So I'm cool with that. And these things are sticky as fuck, and they are dense as hell. They are friggin' baseballs. Boom, dense. And this is ready, but oh boy, and it smells like bubblegum, you guys. I just heard, we're not going to mention who, and I love these guys, but they're like, oh, bubblegum chips, where do those come from? Those are fake. I'm like, oh boy. You know, I would have believed it before now, but this is goddamn bubblegum. Anyways, this is the frostiest one. Like I said, right now we are in 80-degree temperatures in the last day of September. It's either last day or the second to last day. Second to last day of September, so it's the 29th. And, I mean, this thing, I've got goofy hours for the next 2 weeks, so hopefully it makes it 2 weeks. At least it has to make, I have to let it go at least 1 more week, and that's not going to affect it much because of these temperatures. I dry outdoors. Minnesota, it's possible to do that because this time of year we have right around 60-degree temperatures and 60% humidity, unless we get rain. But then we get a day of dry, so it kind of evens out. But if you select the wrong day, which I did with that golden goat, I picked it, hung it outside. The next day we got to 80 degrees, all the trichomes burnt off, and everything turned brown. So basically the trichomes melted into the bud and gassed off, whatever. Learning experience, and I was just trying to, you know, I can't do everything at once. And I usually stage it out day by day by day, cut some down, and it works. I got to do it differently this year. So, anyways, that's that bad boy looks like, or girl. I am probably going to pull some of these big families off. Defoliate some of this upper stuff. It doesn't need any of that anymore. I mean, it could, if it was fading, you know, I don't see a whole, there's a little bit, and then everything's fading a little bit, but they're not, since it's organic, they're not saying that they're completely done yet to me. Now, that could be because it has some kind of different genetic in it that, you know, doesn't fade. I don't know. Like I said, this is a bag seed, and I only know one half of the parents. So, and that half of the parent was a power plant from SunWest Genetics. So, you know, I can't say that I was super impressed with everything about everything, but the offspring of what I had last year, I'm pretty impressed with. Here is my well. So this is the deepest part here, and after the last couple of years it has caved in a little bit, but it's easy to dig out if I have to. Right now it's at 6 feet deep, and then it steps up to like 3 feet deep, or 2.5 feet, or 3.5 feet deep, and then 2 feet deep, and then I can get up on terra firma basically. That is the blueberry sprinkle, and that is the cream cheese. Now I can't see nothing here because I'm looking up in the sun, so trying to see the screen. I can just barely make it out. Put that tarp up so maybe it'd be easier to see everything, but once again, I don't know what the hell we're looking at. I think I'm pointing at my hand. And this has nice terps too. Candy terps. Get a look at that's my bag seed there. That's the stem of the base. You can see I got a pumpkin down there. There's some pears, some cucumbers. I've been using top dressings of nightcrawler castings, blood meal, bone meal, back during the summer in the veg. And then I thought I was getting a bag of organic blood meal, a big one, but I ended up getting some organic granule stuff, and that's this gray stuff down here. So my grass clippings, I spread everything out on top of there, all the organic granules, and pounded on it with the stick so they settled down into the grass clippings. Let that sit, or watered it in, let that sit overnight, and then I came in with my final round of nightcrawler castings, spread those around on top, pounded those in with a stick, so just basically flat pounding on it like a drum, boom, 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 and then watered that in. Then I've been watering in with pond water, that anything that I stripped off the plants that had bug on it or anything, I threw it in that water, and we're basically fermenting tea, fermented plant juicing or whatever, that stuff, and feeding it in with honey. That jar down there next to that red coffee can has honey in it. And because we're going organic, I'm relying on these plants to know when to shut down. So I wish I could work this thing better. Here's my base to the cream cheese. Now this is the 11.5 foot wide plant here. And I've never brought anything out to drink, and I usually do. Alright. So I'm thirsty. Let me get this one last couple of seconds here. Put you on the tripod. So, if you're still watching, if you're 45 or older, talk to your doctor, schedule a colonoscopy. Thanks everybody for watching. Adios.